Welcome back, friends. My name is Kalina, and you are here with Eat, Read, Sleep, where we come together as a community to vibe with books.
Hey guys, I'm Tapas, and today we are excited to bring you a discussion for the book Start With Why.
And not just discussion, right?
And we got drinks.
Yes, we've got our new format. This is week 2 of drinks and discussion.
Yes.
So what are we drinking today?
So today we're drinking some bourbon whiskey. So,
I see it's not a full bottle.
I cannot confirm or deny that.
Did you just pour 2/3 of the bottle into our 2 cups?
It's been that kind of a day. But
that's because he was with me all day, you guys. All right, so we're toasting to start with why.
And I do want to toast to our why at Eat, Read, Sleep.
I like that.
So just to remind the community, our why here is to create a community of like-minded, like yourselves, curious and courageous readers living the path to self-discovery and to inspire others to do the same.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
And thank you guys for being on this journey with us.
Ooh, nice and smooth.
Ooh, I have not had bourbon in a long time. All right, so let's get started with, how about we do the summary of the book? So I'm going to just go through this really quick. We do have a deep dive summary, like a full summary on a separate episode. So go ahead and click on that link there. But just for a quick brief, this is Start With Why. Simon starts off with, there's 2 ways to really influence human behavior. You can either influence humans through manipulation or through inspiration. And then he breaks down the manipulation. There's 6 types of manipulation that you can find in the deep dive, and then he goes into more of the inspiration. And with inspiration, you can't actually have inspiration if you don't have the why or your purpose or your belief. And that's where he introduces the golden circle. So this golden circle, as you can see here, it starts with the why you do what you do, how you do what you do, and then what you do. And the reason that this is important is because he says that in our world today, we actually don't inspire. We don't start with why. And most companies, they will start with the what, how, and then the why. And so when you do that, you don't actually get the buy-in of your audience or the people that you're trying to get to buy what it is that you want to sell them or convince them of doing. So it's kind of a way to look at how to communicate better.
It's an amazing book, guys. Again, our deep dive summary goes into a lot more in depth for you guys. But today we wanted to just do a quick discussion around our thoughts around the book. And you guys know last week we started a new trend where we're rolling the dice at each other and answering random questions that are unrehearsed.
This has been on my mind since the last time. If it's 1, is it a die or is it still a dice?
I think it's still a dice.
Dice? Dice singular is dice and dice plural is dice.
Don't quote me on it. Don't quote me on that.
If you guys know, please comment below so we can correct ourselves for next time.
All right. Yes.
All right. So just like last time, we're just going to toss this fun cube and then we'll answer the question on there.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So did this change your perspective? Yes, definitely it did. And the reason for that is because of pretty much the title of the book. Start with why. I would say as a leader, I was somebody who was more involved in the what and the how and never really deep dive too much into the why. My thought process changed when I was a leader, and I did read this book and Infinite Game because then I said, wait, this is not how I'm going to run my team. I don't want us to run with just knowing how to do what we do and what to do. Rather, I want to make sure they understand the why. And why is it that I want them to do it? Versus just saying the company wants us to do it, right? The first time around reading it, I definitely think it did change my perspective because I never had that mentality of explaining to my team or anybody else the why behind it. And then also, reading it this time, it also changed my perspective on our why for our channel. Right. I think I mentioned to you that, I want to make sure our listeners and our watchers and viewers know why are we doing this, because why are we doing this in this specific format and why are we doing this as a day-to-day thing versus just saying, hey, we're here to just provide a summary. We want to make sure we make this accessible to everyone, make sure we build a community of like-minded people like us who share the same values and same vision as us, right? So it did help me because then now I'm like, you know what? When it comes to our Eat, Read, Sleep channel, I want to make sure we're also expressing our why to our viewers. So it's not always about just leadership. It can also translate into your personal.
Yeah, absolutely. Perspective-wise, I think that I have read this book before, and I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan, so I have watched his TED Talks multiple times. So it's not really a new concept for me. I've always had it in the back of my mind. What was different this time around was it made me more realize the importance of actually doing it, because before, knowing it, yes, it's important, but I just never had time, right? Because when you start with a why, it takes so much more time, because you have to build that foundation, and you have to get the buy-in, you have to get the right people, and you can't just get to, that end goal, but that's actually not what it's all about, right? So it really made me kind of take a step back. And just like you said, I think when we even first started out Eat, Read, Sleep, or even Eat, Lead, Sleep, or the many variations of our podcast channels that we've had before, I think that we always have done a good job at saying, well, why do you want to do this? Why should we do this? And we've been very forthcoming with that. But I think what this time around, it kind of allowed me to see more. It uncovered a little bit more deeper of the why of what it was. Because I think we started off with more of kind of like a superficial reason. And then it started getting deeper and deeper with each iteration of our podcast. So now I think it's gotten to a point where we're really proud of our why and how we want to inspire others to kind of be able to be their authentic self and be the person that they want to be and find that happiness and be in the present moment. Like, that's kind of like in a really good place to be.
Ready for your turn?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's do it. Okay. So did this change your perspective?
Again.
Okay, so what surprised me was this whole limbic brain part, right? So from all of the TED Talks that I have watched, Simon does go through the how, why, how, what, but this limbic brain part was actually really cool for me because it connected it together, and it's not just a theory, it's actually biological. So the limbic brain part that Simon talks about is if you actually look at the intersection of your brain, it actually does align up to the why, how, what as well. And your limbic brain is actually what controls the emotion of your decision making and all of that. And so if you start with a why, then you actually can impact decision making so much more, versus if you start with the what, which is the outside the neocortex, you can't really, that part of the brain isn't responsible for decision making. So no matter what you say, it's just words. It doesn't mean anything. Right. So I just thought that was really cool. And it was surprising because it's not just like a theory, it's biology.
The cool thing about that is, a lot of times people talk about through theoretical stuff, right? Like, oh, in theory, this is the why, what, and how. But I like how Simon does that, you connect it into the science of it. Like, hey, this is not just me just blurting it out. This is actual biology, actual science that can back this up. And so I love that concept because, as somebody who studied pharmacy and I'm a science major, I related. I'm like, okay, yes, I can believe this because it actually does make sense in our human anatomy. So
it's not something that he just made up and wrote a book on, exactly. Right? Although with his accent, I will say he can probably say anything, and I'll be like, all right,
that's true.
That is true. And then the other thing, as you were talking, it just came to my mind, and then it just went out of my mind. So you gave me really good bourbon. All right, here we go.
Let's go. Who would you recommend this book to or for? If you would have asked me this when I first read it, I would have said any leadership, any company, any corporation. But now, looking back at it, I would say to anybody, honestly. It's a good book to really understand, even for your own personal growth. And even if you're an entrepreneur, you have to start with why. You have to make sure you have the connection with people. Because as I said in the book, people connect to you and your company because they have they can't express it, but there's that gut feeling, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain it because that part of the brain is hard to speak through communication. But when you have that feeling, the gut feeling, people just buy into you, right? So I think that's why I would recommend this book to anybody, because honestly, you can look back on your own personal life and, think about what you want to do differently and make sure people around you understand your why. I would say the number one audience for this is definitely going to be your leaders out there, right? They're going to get the most benefit out of this. Because there is a huge gap, especially in our workplaces, everywhere else, around the why. Everybody is going straight towards the how and the what, and there's not much focus being put on the why, which it needs to, because, when you were talking about the last example, the companies that I love now, which is like Apple's of the world, Southwest, they all lead through their why. And those companies have stayed around. They have great reputation. You pay a little bit more for Apple, but you're getting the best out there. and you're going to get the support of the entire ecosystem.
And it may not even be the best, right? That's what Simon says. It's not the best. It's just a company that aligns with your values.
Exactly.
So you're willing to either pay a premium for something that's subpar or have an inconvenience for something that's not even the best of the best, but it's because you connect with them in that way. And I agree. I think that's part of why, and Simon does say in this book is meant for everyone because he wants everyone to feel inspired to do so, because this why, how, what is actually a form of communication, and it's the way that we should all communicate with each other, right? In our summary, we have a kind of a skit through a whole dating example, and it kind of talks through that. So this applies not just at work or in corporations, but when you're out in the real world and you're trying to have a connection with someone, you're trying to date someone or marry someone, court someone, this all makes sense and is relatable for it.
Yeah. Okay. Your turn. Ready?
Yep. Oh my gosh, you guys.
Too much bourbon. All right, round 2.
Okay, let's see. I keep getting this question to change your perspective. I think this die.
They want you to answer that.
To change my perspective. Dislike about this book.
Oh, you got this one for the other one, but too.
I know. I don't. Actually, I don't mind it.
All right, let's Simon.
What do I not like about this book? I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan, so for me to say this is a bit heartbreaking. But I would say because the concept itself is just so straightforward, there's really not much more you can say to it. It's literally start with why.
Yep.
And that's pretty much it.
Yep.
So the book is essentially, how many pages is this book? It's like
230 something.
200 and something, 30 pages of straight examples.
Yeah, pretty much.
I feel like there's definitely more. If you go through our summary, you can get a lot more content out of it. But when I was reading it and scripting it for the summary, it was like, I literally just read this. Oh, I just went through this again.
Yeah.
And it's which is good because it reiterates the concept and you see in a bunch of different ways. But because of that, I felt like this could have probably been a little bit shorter of a book.
Because you can pretty much go anywhere in the book and just start with why.
Absolutely.
Start with why.
If you just did this and then started reading, you wouldn't be missing out on some of the other parts.
Right. Especially with you and I, who we've also watched a lot of Simon Sinek TED Talks. So if you watch any of his TED Talks, you pretty much got the whole book too.
Yes. So. But that's what I really admire about Simon Sinek is his cadence and just how he speaks and what he talks. His message is very consistent. So you get that reiteration over and over again when you watch his YouTubes, listen to his podcasts. It's very much the same message over and over again. So it becomes ingrained in you. And that I really like.
So the last part of the book, or the discussion rather, is going to be around our favorite part of the book, or our favorite example from the book.
Favorite example. Okay.
Yes.
Let's do that.
So I'll let you go first on this one. What's your favorite example from this book?
So because there's 7 million examples in here, let's pick the one that stuck out to me. Southwest. I actually did not realize that Southwest was such a human-centric company, and to hear kind of the stories of how they care more about their relationship with their employees, to the point where Southwest says, the customer is not always right. We will always defend our employees first. I think that's really, really strong of them to say, like, we stand for what's right and we'll protect our people and take care of our people. Because when you build that, you build what Simon points out in the book is really important, is trust. You have to have trust within the company. And that trust builds the value, and the people, when they see the value, they'll come to work and they'll go through thick and thin for you. So seeing how Southwest built that and just how resilient and how quick they are to act. They see problems, and then they, instead of giving up or going with a conventional solution, they create their own ways around it. And the way that they do that is they actually rally their entire team. And by doing that, they get a lot of success out of it. So one example in there was the 10-minute turnaround. So Southwest, I believe was like 1971, had to sell off one of their planes for financial reasons. And so now they had to fly operations 4 planes using only 3 planes. And so they could have said, okay, we'll either cut our operations, or what could we do? And they literally said, okay, let's just rally and let's just make this happen with 10-minute turnarounds. And they were able to do that. And they pushed their employees and they pushed everyone, and everyone was all for it. They're like, yes, let's do it. We'll rally and we'll get it done together. So I really like that.
I think the Southwest is a really good example of a company who also, you can tell the employees really buy into their why. right? Because even when you go on the flight, it's super casual. It's like, first come, first some seating, which not many companies like to do that. And also the air hostesses are so just chill. They make jokes and they have all
They make
this
it fun.
Yeah.
And they have the autonomy to make their, their onboarding speech like really fun, however they want to do it. There's no like strict guidance around that.
Because they feel safe in their environment. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, they get to express themselves, which is really cool to see.
I think my favorite example, I know he's talked about the Apple one a million times. I would love to talk about Apple, but my favorite example is actually going to be around the Walmart example. Okay. So Sam Walton was somebody who, his why was to also make sure his company had good budgeting, right? So he wanted to make sure his vision was around making sure the food and the grocery, all that kind of stuff was accessible to multiple people, not just a high value commodity. So he did, lead his why with money in mind, but in a way where it was to help the community out.
It was a lot about the community, giving back to the community.
Exactly, and also helping his own team. So making sure the people who work for Walmart also feel like they are part of something big. They're there for the community too. So that was his vision. But as he started to get older and he handed off the company to other executives, they hired people that were just about the money part only, not about that other part, which is the main reason why Sam Walton was so profitable. I mean, was sixth richest person in the world before he passed away.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And the reason, and those people ran the company as we're just going to make money. So they started having all these major cuts, these major layoffs. The company culture, people didn't want to be part of the team. There were a lot of class action lawsuits that happened because of it. So it's just, you can tell like the major component on there around the why for Sam Walton was completely gone. And the company just started tanking. I mean, don't get me wrong, Walmart's still a very successful company, but that same passion is not there. And you can tell the people who work at Walmart, not a lot of them are saying, I want to be here at all times. They're just going to say, oh, it's a good paycheck, So it's so interesting because what made Sam Walton so successful and what made Walmart blow up into a big business as it is was that community and that people piece. And now they've forgotten that, and it's just about running the numbers.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really impactful example from there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's unfortunate that in this day and age, we have information like this at our fingertips, or we know how we can be successful, and yet we've got major corporations that can't get it right, right? And unfortunately, it's not, in my opinion, it's not because they can't get it right. It's because Simon mentions it in the book. When you have your why and you grow so big, the person at the top who does the why becomes disconnected. And the bigger they get, the further away they get from the what, which is the actual hands-on part of it, the employees. And because they're so far away, it's hard to continue to drill that message in. And it's hard for people at the what level to actually know what the why truly is.
Yeah, and also a lot of these companies are hiring their CEOs or presidents to be the what leaders or the how leaders. They're not the why leaders. So the why leaders are the ones that are innovative. They're outside the box thinkers. They're expanding, right? A lot of times those people are not promoted up. It's people who get the numbers, who get what they're looking for, and that because of that, you end up having just a continuous company that's just.
What does he say? He says, not all leaders lead.
Yes.
Right? They think that they do, but when they come in, when you're at the top of the hierarchy, you're supposed to stay at that why, but a lot of them are the how, right? So he says he talks to entrepreneurs and CEOs and things like that, and he asks them, what do you spend the most of your time on? And what they say is more of the how-to, the step-by-step, the process versus the actual inspirational message part of it. Okay, so before we close, any last messages for our viewers?
Just again, thank you guys, and definitely make sure you guys do check out the book. I personally love this book a lot. Read it a long time ago. Check out his other stuff too. Simon Sinek has a huge library of books.
I would like to say that it takes inspiration to change the world. And I think that's part of Simon's message, that one by one, it just takes each other, helping each other, keeping each other accountable, rallying each other to know that at the end of the day, it's not just us. One of the stories that he mentioned is Ben, the runner. And if you guys check out our summary, you'll catch me running and being really good at it. But, when we're constantly in competition with each other, then the world doesn't support each other. We're all just kind of going at doing our own race. But if we take a moment and just realize that our own competition is really just with ourselves, we'll end up helping each other grow and thrive a lot more. And I think that it's a really important message that we should all take away from. It's not very often that for me, when I finish a book, that there's this like lasting message that I want to go out into the world and change. A lot of it is, oh, how can I be better myself? But this very much so, like the Stephen Covey book, like there's so much more in this world that we can impact. And that's just kind of what I want to leave with our viewers, is that there's a lot that you can do to make a change and help the world be a better place and help everyone be their best selves. So if you can do that, and just know your impact, and let's make the world a better place.
Yes, thank you, Kalina, for that. Again, it does start with us leading the charge, but at the same time, we do have an ability to impact the people around us too with it. So thank you for ending us on that.
So let's cheers with that, and cheers to you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please make sure you check out the book summary. We've got podcast summary, which is completely different from any of the YouTube versions. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Bye, guys.